The first murder scene we had, first tried it with strangling, and then my hand placed the hand, and I strangled Anna, and I moved her around like this. But it didn't work, it looked really bad, so we looked it up on YouTube how you would film a fighting scene, and then they said you have to, I don't hold Anna, but she holds my hand. And then I move it around by moving her hand. And then it looked much better. And then later on we discovered that if you want to quicken up the scene, you need to have the counter shot, what Anna sees. So we edited that in later. And then even later on we wanted to add the knife into the scene. And we already knew it was stabbing with the knife. But we didn't know where she would get the knife. So I made a little sketch of the scene in the kitchen. And I made a drawing of the sculpture. And then I thought, hey, I knew I wanted to place the knife there. And then I thought, hey, she can move her hands along the sculpture, like feeling the way down. And when you first think about it, you're afraid it will not work because it's too obvious. But then you show it to friends and they like it. And it works as expected, and it's quite amazing that you plan something and it works as expected. And then the scene that she's washing her hands, we already had filmed it without having a script. I was just taking shots of things that I tried to find nice shots just in the camera. And so the hand washing was really nice, and then we added the sound of the water, and it was even more interesting, but it's still not part of a story. So we added it in the story, and then later we filmed the hands with the blood. And then even more later we added the candles and the radio. And the voice of the radio that is talking about the murder. And before that we already filmed the scene in the church with the voice of God that's talking to Anna and giving instruction. And you write it and you think, well, it's okay, but then you film it and you edit and then you show to a friend and you don't know, is it gonna catch on? But he's really a bit stiff, but he liked it, so it was quite amazing. So it's like a written scene, it's already a joke in it. You have nothing, but in the end, you can make it work. So that was an interesting point. And then later on we filmed that they dumped the body back into the canal. And we went out to film, and then I said, oh, just take the candles with us. Let's bring the candles. It was not planned, just on the last minute before we left, we took the candles with. And that adds, of course, lots of more action. It's difficult to get sensible action in the right location. And then later we filmed like 3 times outside in the evening near the church. And so the first evening we did do the strangling and the choking, the wider shot, and then the second time the closer shot, and the first time we also did put in the next to the canal the wide shot, and then later we came back to add some more detail, and the dragging of the body back too, and the flipping over of the sheet to cover up. And at the end the film was already finished. We saw a swan swimming in the canal, and then I said, oh, we go back at night to film it. But actually the first time when we filmed the canal, there was a swan on the place where we needed to film. But we had to scare it away because we needed the place. So we already were thinking we can put in the swan, but we never saw it again. Yeah, and the hospital scene in the sanatorium, it's like, so I'm reading, of course, YouTube tutorial about how working with the Da Vinci software. And then one of the tutorials is that they put in a head-up display, like projected on a glass for like a space rocket. And then I said, well, that's interesting. And so it's made up of 2 or 3 layers. Like one is you film where Anna is sitting like locked up. And then the second shot is in a different location. That's like the mirror image in the glass. And you put that on top. And but that also, it was first written, most of the text, then filmed and merged in the software, and then later added some more text. But it's one shot, and later up a close-up, but it's not really much different. It's a close-up, but it's most the same.
Keep the conversation neutral.
So the beginning of the suspense is when the intruder comes into the house, and he pushes open the door with his hand and he walks up the stairs. And we edited, well, Anna is making a drawing and listening to the radio, so she cannot hear him coming in. And then we edited it and showed it to friends, but they didn't get the feeling of that it was together and that there was suspense. So we changed the audio, so the radio is getting, the volume of the radio goes down. Then you hear the scratching, and then you hear the sound from the suspense. And once we change the sound to that way, then everybody understands how it's intended. But without the audio, it's it's not understandable. And it was one of the many times that you discover how audio plays a really important role. It doesn't have to be too loud, but it helps how to interpret the situation. And the same with at the end in the scene that they drag away the body bag and throw it in the water and the swans come. If you don't have the soft music, it's the same scene, the same background noise, action noise, but you don't get the right feeling. And once we put, so we forgot actually to put at the last 4 minutes audio. And so we showed to people, I don't like that. But once you put the audio for the end and in the hospital scene, then it's falling into places and people don't have any doubt. And on the beach also, like the end tune is like everybody knows, okay, this end, relax, relieve, okay. And then the beginning of the fighting scene, when the intruder comes home along the stairs, it needs to start. So that's why the glass is thrown off the stairs. Like he has aggression, he throws it off, and that makes a noise, and then Anna hears it, and she stops making a drawing and takes a look what's happening. And when she opens the door, the intruder comes with the sculpture to hit her. And we planned to do that, but the radio is all antique radio with tubes, so we couldn't destroy it. I made a little drawing how to put it. So we put the pine cone on top, so that we could hit the pine cone, and that would splash away. But the pine cone, of course, makes not a real noise, so we added afterwards, we added the noise from like a big hit, but of course a pine cone makes no noise at all. Waiting for a final chance. Ringling, ringling, ringling bells. Is that calling? I said hot, 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 hot.